Let's get to our 5 headlines. All right, so who's the latest politician to violate his own COVID rules and get caught for doing it? Important qualifier here, that is get caught for doing it, because we can assume that they're all violating the rules. It's just that they don't all get caught. So the latest is Governor Gavin Newsom in California. He went to a party at a restaurant. So that's 2 levels here. He went to a restaurant and it was a party. And I guess he was caught. People found out about it. And here he is pretending to be contrite.
A few weeks ago, I was asked to go to a friend's 50th birthday. My wife and I, a friend that I've known for almost 20 years, and a friend that had put a lot of time and energy into his 50th birthday. It was in Napa, which was in the orange status, relatively loose compared to some other counties. It was to be an outdoor restaurant, and we started the program started at 4 o'clock. It was one of those early reservations. I got there a little bit late at 4:30, and as soon as I sat down at the larger table, I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated, and I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back to my house. Instead, I chose to sit there with my wife and a number of other couples that were outside the household. And you can quibble about the guidelines, et cetera, but the spirit of what I'm preaching all the time was contradicted, and I got to own that. And so I want to apologize to you because I need to preach and practice, not just preach and not practice. And I've done my best to do that. We're all human. We all fall short sometimes.
Now, I saw somebody on Twitter point out that there's a real disconnect, really in general with this guy, but especially in that clip you just watched, between his facial expressions and what he's saying. He's supposed to be apologetic, but you don't see that on his face. It keeps saying, well, I made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Yeah, sure, we all do make mistakes, but going to a party while at the same time forbidding the residents of your state from doing the same is not a mistake. It's an intentional act. This word mistake is often abused, I think. A mistake is something you do you didn't mean to do, right? It's like an accident. If you do it intentionally, it's not a mistake. So this was an intentional act on the part of the governor. And we have a right to ask, what motivated this intentional act? It's not enough with these people when they get caught doing this, whether they're going to get their hair done or they're going to a party, whatever it is. You see them walking around without a mask, even while they're lecturing everybody else for not having masks on, passing mask mandates and everything. We have a right to, it's not enough to say, oh, it was a mistake, I'm so sorry. Okay, great, you're sorry. You're sorry because you were caught. But why were you doing it? What motivated that? We have a right to ask that. So we could ask with Governor Newsom, is he suicidal and homicidal? Does he really believe that going to an event like this might kill someone or himself, and he did it anyway? Because that's the way he talks normally. If so, if he's homicidal and suicidal, that's a fact that might be of some interest to the people of California. Or does he not really believe what he says about the virus? Does he actually believe that, well, sure, I mean, you can be, pretty safe and go to a restaurant, go to a party. Like, it's possible to do. Is that the case? Which means that everything he's been saying about the virus publicly, he doesn't really mean. It's got to be one of those, right? It's either he doesn't believe what he's been saying about the virus, or he does believe it, and he's got a death wish. It really has to be one or the other. And I think if there was a real media in this country, and in California especially, they would ask him that question. Which is it, Governor? Do you have a death wish, or are you a lying hypocrite? Which one? I think it's probably the lying hypocrite one. Number 2, a huge scandal here. The Daily Beast has this covered. It says Madison Cawthorn, the North Carolina Republican who became the youngest member of Congress in history, has admitted that he tried to convert Jews and Muslims to Christianity. My God. In an interview with Jewish Insider, the 25-year-old who came under fire for selfies he took at Hitler's vacation retreat in Germany claimed he had converted several Muslims to Christ and several culturally Jewish people. Cawthorn said, if all you are is friends with other Christians, then how are you ever going to lead somebody to Christ? If you're not wanting to lead someone to Christ, then you're probably not really a Christian. Claiming he's read through just about every single religious work there is, the Republican said that he converted a young woman from New York and someone, quote, down in Atlanta when he was in rehab after a car accident that left him paralyzed. It was pretty incredible, Cawthorn added, and said he's been unsuccessful in converting practicing Jews. But he has, quote, switched a lot of, I guess, culturally Jewish people. But being a practicing Jew, like people who are religious about it, they are very difficult. I've had a hard time connecting with them in that way. Okay. Disturbing stuff. It seems that this evangelical Christian believes in evangelizing. It seems that this believer in the good news believes in telling people the good news. It seems that this Christian is Christian. Incredible revelation. I'm glad the Daily Beast is on top of this. Perhaps next we'll find out that, there are vegetarians out there who like salad, bowlers who on occasion will roll heavy balls towards small stationary objects. I mean, it's impossible to know what surprises await us after this. By the way, if you've ever been, just a note here, if you've ever been proselytized to, whether you're a member of a non-Christian religion or no religion, you shouldn't be offended by it or upset by it. It doesn't make any sense to be offended or upset by it. The person trying to convert you believes they are telling you a crucial truth about the universe and reality. You may disagree, you may not believe what they're saying, but there's no place to be offended by it. You should be offended if they don't tell you, if they don't share it with you. If you've got a Christian in your life who's not sharing that with you, I think that maybe is where the offense should come in. I think that tells you something about how much they care about you and for you. It's sort of like, if you're walking towards a bridge and someone thinks that the bridge is faulty and it's going to give way if you walk over it. They should tell you that. And you should be very offended if they don't tell you that, even if they're wrong about the status of the bridge. Like, you're walking over the bridge and there's someone who sees you walking and they stay silent. And then as soon as you make it over, they shout to you, "Oh, phew, I thought that bridge was going to give out." Well, you would be right to respond, "Dude, then why didn't you tell me that before I walked across it? So you were prepared to just watch me fall to my death?" That's kind of what it's like. But in this case, of course, it's the other way around, where the Christian believes they are pointing to a bridge that will not give way. When they share the gospel, they are trying to steer you towards the sturdy bridge. And again, even if you don't believe what they're saying, there's no cause for offense. Any more than, in other religions or some other religions, there's not as much evangelizing that goes on. Christianity is somewhat unique on that front, but if I'm talking to someone of another religion, as has happened, and they're trying to convince me of the truth of their religion, it doesn't offend me at all. All right, let's go here, and here's another not so shocking revelation, since we're on the subject of things that shouldn't shock us. Another hate crime claim has been exposed as a hoax. It says, let's see, this is from the Daily Wire, yes. Clifton Utsi, 18, claimed that his BMW X5 was vandalized as part of a hate crime, with the perpetrator writing every message that left-wing provocateurs think the right believes. They spray-painted across the SUV racist and homophobic slurs, including the N-word, and KKK was sprayed across the car, as well as anti-Black Lives Matter messages. I think there was a swastika, too. But a month after the initial story gained local media headlines, I never even heard about this, the owner of the vehicle has now been charged with multiple crimes in relation to the incident. Insurance fraud, filing a false claim, but a bunch of other charges. So it's good that they're actually being charged with a crime for a change, because usually that's not how these things go. He faces up to 7 years in prison. No way he's actually going to get 7 years in prison, but I would like to see that happen. If you really want to put an end to these false hate crime claims, which seem to happen every week now, there need to be serious ramifications for people who do this. And it is a serious crime. To my mind, if you file a false hate crime claim, you should get the penalty that somebody would have gotten for committing that hate crime if it had really happened. So if somebody had actually defaced this guy's car with KKK and swastikas and racial slurs and everything, then whatever penalty they would get, and I'm sure it would be several years in prison, that's the penalty that this person should get, to my mind. But this, like we talk about, where the desire for hate crimes and for racism, there's a greater desire for it than there is a supply of it. And it also just shows the people that come up with these fake hate crimes. Not only the fact that they're doing a fake hate crime in the first place tells you something. Because if we really lived in a racist country and you, for some reason, wanted to be a victim of a hate crime, there should probably be plenty of opportunities for it to really happen to you. But it's not just that. It's also just that this would appear to be someone who's just never encountered an actual racist person in their life because they have no idea what an actual racist person would say or how they would act. That's what you find in the hate crime hoaxers. It's not just that they've never been a victim of a real hate crime. It seems like, and this is good news, they've never encountered actual racism because they have this cartoonish idea. They get their idea of racism from TV, from the movies. Like an actual racist person would spray paint KKK and a swastika on your car? No. So that's the good news. We should all be happy that racism is not nearly as prevalent as the left likes to pretend. What else here? From the New York Post, it says, Americans who are hosting gatherings over the holiday season should encourage guests not to sing while inside and should shield their pets from interacting with guests from outside their household, according to guidance from the CDC. The recommendations were included in a list of guidelines by the agency to help stop the spread of coronavirus as a second wave has spread like wildfire across the U.S. CDC has said, encourage guests to avoid singing or shouting, especially indoors. Keep music levels down so people don't have to shout or speak loudly to be heard. And then it goes on from there with other. The CDC sounds like me talking to my kids. No shouting, keep the noise down. Hey, no jumping on the couches. Those aren't trampolines. This is obviously absurd, but I do have two thoughts here. First of all, who is singing at their holiday parties? Do people actually do that? Like in It's a Wonderful Life or something where the whole crowd starts singing together in unison? I've never seen that. I've heard music at holiday parties. I've been to plenty of holiday parties in my life. I don't think I've ever actually seen a group of people start singing. Number two, I'm actually in favor. Maybe this would surprise you. I'm in favor on a couple levels here of this. First of all, the thing about keeping your pets away from the guests, totally in favor of that. It's got nothing to do with COVID for me, though. When I go over to your house and you have a dog, I'm sorry. Like, I know you love your dog and you think everyone else does. I don't need your dog jumping on me every 5 seconds. It's super annoying. And it's always awkward when the person who owns the dog is not. They just assume that I would just love to have this slobbering beast crawling all over me for the entire night. Why would you assume I'd want that? So that's good advice. And the second good advice, I think, is banning singing and music at Christmas. I'm actually in favor of that as long as it's more targeted. So what I would say is ban certain songs, like ban Wonderful Christmas Time, Little Drummer Boy, anything sung by Mariah Carey. Those songs, from what I understand, are those are songs that if you sing them or listen to them, you're more at risk to spread COVID. I think that's the science. They can also cause bubonic plague, hepatitis, tetanus. So best to play it safe and ban just those songs. The rest of the Christmas music, have at it. Number 5, finally, I'm concerned about Japan. Very concerned. Someone needs to have a talk with Japan. This, it would appear, is a very lonely country. We already know about all the sex robots in Japan. That's a big thing. Last I read, 67% of the population in Japan is now comprised of sex robots. And I just made that up. But here's something I'm not making up. a new invention for single men in Japan. Here it is here. You can see it. It's a robotic hand, which, just to clarify, the robotic hand is meant to simulate hand holding for single guys in Japan. And you see it says you could take a romantic stroll with this robotic hand. It's if you can't see, if you're listening to the audio podcast, it's like a severed hand, but it's robotic, and you kind of like strap it to yourself, and it says it feels almost like a real female hand, supposedly. I'm not sure how much it costs. The good news is that at least, however much it costs, it's sure to be cheaper than an actual girlfriend, so that's the one positive. If you can deal with looking like a serial killer when you walk down the street, then maybe this is the way to go. I just feel like some other country needs to reach out to Japan at this point and say, like, listen, guys, if you need a friend, we could be pen pals. You know, this is just not healthy at all. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.